Greetings. Welcome to another Tomorrow's World Webcast. My name is Wallace Smith, and I wish I had better news to talk about today. Even today, I was getting some coffee, and the headlines, the New York Times, the headlines, the Wall Street Journal, just pictures continue to come in of the terrorist bombings in Brussels. I didn't even bother to actually grab a newspaper item to be able to bring because the news keeps coming in and updating things, and so the news hasn't completely settled. But from what I have seen, they've experienced more than 30 people dead, more than 200 wounded in 3 explosions, 2 at the airport, I believe, with 1 bomb, thankfully, which apparently was set but did not go off, they've taken care of, and then also a bombing on a bus. All this in the wake of having captured one of the key terrorists involved in the Paris attacks. Just absolutely terrible news. There's 2 main things I want to say today. One is I hope we are praying for the families of those affected by these bombings in Brussels. I can't imagine sending someone off to the airport, say on their first trip ever, excited to fly someplace else and explore the world and get on the plane only to find out that they'd experienced something like this. Hopefully we see these pictures and our heart just grieves what these people have gone through. My wife and I have actually flown out of Brussels. Some of the places they were talking about in the news, we've been there, and really just sort of hit home for us. The second thing I want to talk about is, where is all this leading? What is the future of all of this? It just seems nonstop. What is going on? We have talked many times here on the webcast, on our telecast at tomorrowsworld.org, in our magazine, Tomorrow's World, that there will be a king of the south, a confederation of Arabic nations that will push against, there will be this difficulty against the king of the north, which is what Europe is becoming and turning into. All this has been laid out in prophecy. But I want to highlight a couple of particular things for the sake of this webcast. For instance, Jesus Christ himself mentions in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 7 that nation is going to rise up against nation and kingdom is going to rise up against kingdom. Now the word there that's used for nation actually is ethnos. Actually it's different than just simply a nation. It involves so much. There is a certain cultural identity, a racial identity. It has to do with peoples of the world, really not necessarily just nations. And that's part of what you see here is this rise of a culture against another culture. It's really not just a matter of a nation. You see this radical Islam against Western culture in general. And it's just unrelenting in that way. Also, actually, in the same chapter in the Bible, in Matthew chapter 24, in particular verse 37, Jesus Christ says the days preceding his return will be like the days of Noah. Now that said, he's emphasizing in that section, and it's very clear in other passages, parallel passages as well, about the suddenness of his return. That people will be living life, and then boom, all of a sudden it's there. They thought, oh, he's not coming, but indeed he is coming. But we'd be fools not to also hearken back, using Jesus Christ's own words and motivated by them, to consider what was going on the earth in the days leading up to Noah. A time when God decided then to destroy the world and to punish sin. And when you take a look at it, there were days of violence. Read for yourself in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 11, how violence covered the earth. In verse 5 in Genesis 6, that mankind's thoughts were continually on evil and wickedness. It seems increasing like our world is being blanketed in violence. And realistically, we should not expect this to die down anytime soon. Quite the contrary, we should expect it to increase. And concerning prophetic trends, again, in terms of looking at where this is going, one more point I want to make. It really is a clash of worldviews. And what you have with Islamic fundamentalism is a deep worldview, a way of seeing the entire world that is religious and theological in nature. What does Europe have to counter against that? Europe's culture has become so secularized over the years, just devoid of any consideration of God or theology or deep, fundamental, truly religious belief. And when two such things collide like that, the secular side of things, it's like coming to a gunfight with a knife. In the clash of those worldviews, secularism, atheistic secularism, is just vacuous and has nothing to compete against what you see with Islamic fundamentalism. But the Bible says that secular Europe will not always stay secular Europe. Is it possible that things like this will cause Europeans to rediscover their roots and to consider fighting fire with fire? It remains to be seen, but it's worth watching. And thank you for watching. And please check out all of our other resources at tomorrowsworld.org.